Okay, let's go. Sort the lighting out. Hello my darlings and welcome to Ray's World. Get yourself your favourite beverage. I've got a coffee today because mama needs some caffeine in her system. We're going to do a little girly chat today and I'm so up for that. Don't you just love a girly chat? And guys, if you are watching this video, you are totally welcome here. This is typically a girly chat. Just imagine you're in my lounge, we've got our tea and we're just chatting until 3 a.m. in the morning with snacks, okay? That is the vibe right now that we're wanting to get. We can always do another Q&A, can't we? We could always do another girly chat, can't we? Not sure about this coffee though. I need it. So the first question we've got today, before I read it, because it's about sexuality, I just want to say, as a sister right now, if you're struggling with your sexuality at the moment, well, first of all, I would give you a hug and I'd be like, babes, take the pressure off. Because actually, it's such a confusing time to grow up in. I know all ages will be watching this and you can struggle with your sexuality, all ages, but especially like school and college age and early 20s maybe, because of the environments that you're in. It must be so confusing and so overwhelming to have all of these different choices or options. When I was in secondary school, you could only be gay or a lesbian, and if you were, that was pretty rare. There was usually, you know, like one gay person in the year group and nothing else. And now I don't even know the percentage. I don't even know all of the genders. I know there's over 100 now. That's really confusing. It is already confusing enough when you're like, you know, you're starting to experience sexual desire, having your first kiss, liking boys and dating and sex and the pressures to have sex and all of these things. That's already a lot. Okay, I remember that when I was a teenager, that was a lot. And now we have a lot more things. So I just really want to give you a hug and just say, if you're feeling confused, I'm not surprised because it's a lot. So I'm going to read out the question that I had, which was really interesting actually. And I thank you to the person that asked this. How do you know if you're not asexual if you can't have sex before marriage? So first of all, if you're asexual, it means you're not attracted to men or women. This is my personal opinion, the answer I'm going to give. So take it with a pinch of salt, pray about it, think about what you think about it, and then maybe we could talk again. Feel free to message and we can talk again about it. So when I read this question, this verse came to mind, and it's in Songs of Solomon, and it says this: young women of Jerusalem, and that can also apply to us, young women, I charge you, do not stir up or awaken love until the appropriate time. This verse is really powerful because it's saying actually that there's a season of your life for you to not be focused on that at all. And if you're not getting those natural desires come up, don't worry about it, love. That's absolutely fine. And this verse encourages that. So it says, how do you know if you're not asexual, if you can't have sex before marriage? This question is kind of saying that surely you have to have sex with someone to know if you're going to be physically attracted to them. But I would say you know if you're physically attracted to someone. You will have chemistry, you will want to flirt with them, you will want to kiss them. As you do that, that will naturally evolve into sex. Now obviously as Christians we wait to have sex, so we have to put in boundaries. That's quite difficult. Me and Fitz found that very difficult. Who Fitz is my husband, but that sexual attraction will be there before you get married, and to not have sex you'll have to put in boundaries. So I would say don't worry about that, because if you're going to marry someone, you're going to marry them because you're in love with them. So you're not going to get married if you're not in love with them. So I would say that will very naturally, organically be fine. If you're not attracted to someone, you're probably not even going to date them because you won't want to, because you're not sexually attracted. If you're worried because you're not attracted to anybody right now, and if you do want to get married, have faith that love, like Songs of Solomon said, will be awoken at the appropriate time. And just from a little personal experience actually, so I did have sex before marriage, and I did have sex before I really committed my life to Jesus as well. And God had to take me through multiple processes really, but there was one, but I did go through a single season where God showed me my identity without just without being in a relationship. So I just didn't know who I was. I'm not saying everyone goes through that, but I did personally. During this time, I was invisible to men. I didn't get asked out. I felt invisible to men, right? And then at the end of that time, I felt God say, now you're going to go into a season of dating. And the next week I got asked out by someone. But the people that were asking me out were godly men, and men of integrity, men that had marriage in their mind, whereas before I was attracting guys that probably didn't have marriage in their mind. Amazing. God is so good. He really can do that work. I started going dating, right? And I went on dates with Christian guys who were glorious, handsome, godly, creative, loads of other great words. But I just wasn't attracted to them. Didn't fancy them. And it actually got to a point where it really upset me. I just thought, God, am I never going to meet a godly man that I really fancy? And then I went on Salt again, thinking I'll go on some dates. And then I met my husband, and when I met Fitz, I fancied him, and I was like, thank God, because I thought I was actually scared that I just couldn't fancy anyone anymore, because God took me on such a process of just not needing validation from men or anything like that, or relationships. So maybe you're in that spot right now. Maybe you're not around anyone that you're attracted to, and that's fine, because maybe down the line you're going to meet your person, and you will fancy them, and it will organically flow from there. So I really, really hope that helps. I'm not disregarding, that you might actually be asexual, which I would actually translate as God calling you to a life of celibacy, which is an admirable thing. Jesus was celibate. The Apostle Paul was celibate. The Bible actually says, get married if you have to. It's better you actually stay single. I love that the Bible says that. If you haven't got a desire for marriage, that could be translated maybe as a life of celibacy, which is great. Question number 2 now. Chin chin. Number 2, how do you deal with laziness when it comes to achieving your goals? What a great question. I mean, to be honest, I don't really have a great answer for this, but I do have a couple of thoughts. One thing that comes to mind immediately is that motivation isn't a feeling. So you're never going to feel like working out. I mean, some people might, and God bless you. It's so easy to be lazy. I think it's always down to choice to commit to something. And I think that comes down to character building, which is really hard. My last thought on this is just keep getting up. Keep getting up over and over again. Like when you fail, when you don't work out like you wanted to, get up again and try tomorrow. Yeah, just never give up. Always get back on the horse and keep going and keep achieving your goals. And it's gonna be messy. It's not gonna be perfect. It's gonna be imperfect, because humans are imperfect. I really want to recommend a book actually on this, Simplify by Bill Hybels, and he talks about time management. Now, this could also be a time management issue. I think learning the art of time management, saving your time, multiplying your time, is hugely helpful. And that book I've recommended will teach you how to manage your time and simplify your life in order for you to achieve what you want to achieve. And it's very inspiring, and it really taught me a lot. So recommend that book. So the third question, my darlings. This is one I know so many people are feeling at the moment. I hate going to church. What do I do? This is huge. This is a huge topic, huge conversation. So first of all, right, this is complicated and sensitive. You might be watching this, you've been totally smashed by the church. You've been hurt by the church. You are hurting right now because of something you've experienced in the church. That is so important, how your heart is feeling about that. And healing is needed for that, 100%. Sometimes healing is needed that before we go back into the church, and I understand that, and so appreciate that. So take what I'm saying carefully, because I don't want to upset anyone. But my first thing is keep going and have faith. Have faith that God has planted you where He has. Obviously, there are situations where you might actually need to leave the church that you're at, because maybe it's culty, or maybe it's the theology is whack, and your discernment is just like, something is way off here. Or you have been treated badly. It's really affecting your mental health. In those situations, my darling, leave. And take a break if you need to, and find another church. On the back of that, those situations, probably more minority, and the media will blow those things up, because the enemy wants to slander the church, and he wants everyone to think that all churches are awful. And I'm just here to say right now in this video that the church is glorious, but the rest are golden. And I will say this, the church is flawed because humans are in it. And in Romans, God goes through the 7 churches, and he says everything that church does well, and then he rebukes each church on what they haven't done well and what they've done wrong. And every single church has that. Every single church has got gold. Every single church has got incredible, admirable things that are going on. And then it's got other things that are not okay, things that really, really need tweaking, things that just need to be worked. Every single church you go to, you're going to find flaws. And we need to love her. The church is the bride of Christ. We need to love her. We need to love her in all of her flaws. And I heard this analogy once by Bobby Houston, which was really helpful actually. Imagine the church, the bride, walking down the aisle to Jesus, and we're there in the aisles, and we're saying, oh, look at the dress, oh, look at her hair, oh, look at her makeup, oh my gosh, she's got a stain on her veil. That just wouldn't be appropriate. We would never do that to a bride at a wedding. And if this is something that you struggle with like accusing or actually just talking about the church behind her back, and I would actually say, write out all of the things you love about the church. And whenever you're struggling with going to church, just go through that list. I love that the local church is a huge part of community, because they run CAP money course, they're getting people out of debt, they're running Alpha courses, which is a revival across the world. People are becoming Christians through this every single year, hundreds of people. Food banks, the church is feeding the poor. Clothes banks, the church is providing clothes to the community. The church is connected to local charity. The church is doing incredible things. She is amazing. She is a hospital. She is a place where people are healing and growing in their relationship with Christ. If it wasn't for the church, I wouldn't have my hubby. I wouldn't have my beautiful little son. I wouldn't have traveled to so many countries, actually, mission trips and, holidays of just people I've met at church. I wouldn't have gone to Bethel and had the most life transforming time. Oh my gosh, really actually, there's so much to be thankful for through the church. And I think, bless us, I think we're bombarded with negativity about the church, which is exactly what the enemy wants. So yeah, I would say that if you're really, really hurt by the church at the moment, sweetheart, definitely process that. Go to a counsellor, talk to someone you trust, really pray about it, and pray about if you need to be leaving. 4th question, and I love this question. How do you know if you're discerning a spirit? So I love this question because I'm really passionate about the gift of discernment. And I think that in the UK, this gift is overlooked so much. But a lot of people really have this gift and they don't even know it. And a lot of people are really hungry to see this gift in action. Well, my baby, My baby woke up from a nap, so he's going to join us in our little conversation. 1 Corinthians 12. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's a big passage. Chapter 12 talks about the gifts of the Spirit, and I'm just going to read this verse 4 first. It says, there are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit, the Holy Spirit, distributes them. Wisdom, the message of knowledge, faith, gifts of healing, miraculous powers, prophecy, discerning of spirits, speaking in tongues, and the interpretation of tongues. All these things are the work of one and the same Spirit. So there are different gifts of the Spirit, spiritual gifts, which is so cool. So how do you know if you are discerning a spirit? This is how you know if you've got discernment. Have you ever listened to a testimony of something that God has done and it's given you goosebumps, it's made your eyes water, it's physically affecting you? Now, I would say that you've got the gift of discernment because you just feel that story is coming from a place of the Holy Spirit, of truth, and it is making your eyes water. It's giving you goosebumps. You're like, wow. Or in the same way as someone told you a scary story and it's given you a shiver, like physically. This is all discerning spirits, I think. And it's just kind of listening to those natural cues that you have. Definitely pay attention to how you're physically feeling, how you're emotionally feeling when you go to different places or when you speak to different people. Be aware. I think go slow and pray every single day. Spend time with God every single day and ask Him to give you eyes to see what's going on. I genuinely believe that a lot of people are struggling with things that aren't even their own problems, but they actually think it's their problem because they are feeling it, but actually they're sensing something. And God doesn't want you to be heavy. Another example is the pandemic, something I was really just sensing heavily at the beginning of the pandemic was this fear of death that people were feeling, and this fear of conspiracy theories and Jesus returning, but it wasn't a hopeful feeling, it was a quite scary feeling. People were scared. And so I was just praying peace. Sometimes if you've gone into a situation and you feel very heavy afterwards, if you've gone into a difficult situation and you feel the heaviness of that situation kind of come with you when you go home, in those situations, I would just ask someone to pray for you and just pray for covering for you. Because if you're someone that is pastoral and or you might be a youth leader, you might be meeting with people one-on-one, or you might have someone in your life that has a lot of problems, and you go away and you feel drained, or you feel hopelessness, or you feel that or when you're talking to them, you just really sense that depression or whatever, and you might actually go away from that feeling rubbish. Actually, see it as a gift because God is allowing you to feel those things, because it gives you compassion to pray for them because you know how they're feeling. Those are just some of my thoughts on the gift on the gift of discernment. I would love to hear your thoughts, and that's all the questions. And I told you this video was going to be a bit long. If you enjoyed this video, we could do it again, and I will see you soon.